Assistant Minister for Social Services, Assistant Minister for Prevention of Family Violence.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. And we are a government that is committed to providing cost-of-living relief for Australian families, particularly when it comes to their power bills. And in fact, we took urgent action to shield Australian families and businesses from the worst of energy price spikes. And our energy relief plan is providing targeted energy bill relief and, very importantly, investing in cleaner, cheaper energy for the future. Meanwhile, those in opposition, the Liberals and the Nationals, they voted to make power bills higher for families. They had an opportunity to assist Australian families, but they voted against it. The fact is, the reality at the moment is, we are currently dealing with the most significant shock to energy markets in 50 years due to Russia's prolonged attack on Ukraine. And we know that global energy market disruptions have become more pronounced and are persisting longer than anticipated, and so are our domestic energy market challenges, which have all been made worse by ageing electricity assets and also the decade of inaction and indecision by those across when they were in government has led to that point. But this is why our action as a government has been so incredibly important. And we know the final default market offer confirms that the Albanese government has limited the worst of the energy price spikes while investing in a long-term plan to get cheaper, cleaner energy to all Australians. The fact is our government have taken action to take that sting out of power prices and invest in the cheapest form of energy, renewables, because that's what the community, what the country voted for. One of the many reasons they voted against the previous government was their consistent inaction on climate change. But we are delivering on our commitment to take action, because we are really focused on transforming Australia's economy to a low-carbon economy. And we are taking action to ensure Australia is positioned to become a renewable energy superpower. And of course, our recent budget, we had critical investments to save Australians money on their energy bills and invest in nation-building new industries. Because for too long, just for too long, our country was left behind the rest of the world because of the inaction of those in the opposition. Now, in addition to targeted household rebates to provide energy bill relief, our recent budget is funding a plan to ensure households and communities can take advantage of the savings from smarter energy use and ensures that our nation is really prepared to capitalise on the global boom in clean energy investment. We're doing that through a whole range of measures. But that targeted power bill relief is so important to families who are dealing with the cost of living pressures at the moment, and it was part of a huge cost of living suite that we did put forward in the budget. And this is something that they failed to do. None of these investments in terms of our long-term prospects, in terms of transitioning our economy, just weren't done by them. They took no action when it came to climate change. They failed to do it the whole time they were in government. So let's have a little bit of a look at their record. Shall we run through some of their record? It's quite a lengthy one. They voted down the $1.5 billion indirect bill relief for those Australians who needed it both. They did that. Voted against price caps. There's been so many. We know the member for Hume hid the price rises before the election and then misled Australians about it. And we all remember here, all of us remember here the
point of order.
Deputy Speaker, Standing Order 90 on reflection. The member for Hume has got leave from this House to attend a family medical issue. Many of those opposite are aware of this, and I think the minister should immediately withdraw the remark and apologise.
I didn't hear your comment. I'm sorry.
Aware of the member for Hume's personal issue. My statement was in relation to his role as a previous minister in the previous government. But happy to move on and talk about the more than 20 failed energy policies that those across the aisle have when they were in government. And I was, in fact, here and saw many of them. Every week we'd have a different policy from those ones, and never actually landing on one. But now in opposition, we do seem to have them landing on a policy in terms of climate change, which was recently released. And what is it yet again? Nuclear power. Here we go. That seems to be their only approach in terms of taking energy when it comes to climate change at all. Well, Can I tell you that many people, I'll tell you in my community, are totally opposed to that. We know that nuclear power is, one, too dangerous and two, too expensive. And yet again, they're trotting this out, but I can tell you in my community and across the country, people are extremely opposed to nuclear power, and that seems to be the only idea they've come up with over this long period of time. And in fact, it was one of the worst things the former government absolutely refused to do, was invest in the cheapest form of energy, renewables, and it took a Labor government to do that. And indeed, so many communities suffered for so many years, particularly rural and regional communities too, with that inaction. And we are very proud as a government to actually be taking decisive action when it comes to acting on climate change. We're proud that we've legislated Australia's target of a 43% reduction in emissions by 2030, along with net zero by 2050, supercharging new offshore wind industry and delivering the $20 billion Rewiring the Nation investment to decarbonise our grid and take us to 82% renewables by 2030. A whole range of measures that we have put in place that we are incredibly proud of. And we're doing that because we know it's so important to invest in renewables. Absolutely, we have to be doing that because Australians deserve protection from the worst impacts of climate change. And it certainly is an issue in my electorate when it comes to not acting on climate change by those opposite. It is a big issue. We've recently had last year the devastating floods. And I can tell you it is often very hard to articulate the devastating impacts of natural disasters like that. And when we see this in action on climate change by the previous government, we know how important it is to act, and we have been acting. And we have been acting through a whole range of measures when it comes to providing cost-of-living relief for Australians. And one of the most important areas, of course, that we have done that, as I say, is in power bills, and so many other ways as well, like right across the board. We have done that, whether it be increasing, in fact tripling the bulk billing incentives, reducing the costs of medicines, a whole range of measures that we have brought in, and increasing many other allowances as well to assist Australians. We do understand one of the biggest pressures is, of course, power bills, and that's why we've had so many different initiatives. And I find it remarkable that those opposite come in here and make these grandiose statements when in actual fact their inaction often led us to this point, and they persist in voting against any measures that will actually help Australians get ahead. I don't think they can really comprehend just how hard it is for Australians who are struggling at the moment and who need assistance, and that's why our cost of living measures that are so extensive have made such an important difference. And we look at our electricity bill relief, up to $3 billion of that to assist people working with the states and territories in terms of providing that. It will make a huge difference day to day because they are in fact struggling. But as I say, the action on climate change is something that we are absolutely committed to doing. We made that commitment before the election. We have followed through on that with very comprehensive measures in terms of our investment there. And yet again, all we ever see from those opposite, all we ever hear is about nuclear energy. They just keep pulling that, I think, take that to the next election, see what people say, particularly in coastal areas like mine. They know that's where you'd have to be building it, and I can tell you that's an issue that people are completely opposed to. But in my community too, people are very positive about the initiatives of the Albanese Labor Government when it comes to this really strong action, particularly investment in renewables. And what a great achievement that will be for our regional areas to have that investment, not just in terms of those environmental impacts, but very importantly for the economy and for jobs as well, particularly in those regions. And that's something that I know in my area and right across the country people are very optimistic about in terms of having that. We can become that renewable energy superpower, and we can also provide its support for our regions as well, particularly in terms of their economic growth. So all of that combined with our policies are making a huge difference to Australians who are, as we know, struggling with cost of living measures, which is why in our budget we have taken decisive action when it comes to that, particularly in relation to power bill relief as well. And I would sincerely hope that those opposite perhaps reflect on the fact that they have opposed measures that we have put forward to assist people with their power bills, They should in fact be voting with us to support people, supporting Australian families who are struggling, because on this side we do support Australian families who are struggling through a whole range of initiatives, as opposed to the Liberals and Nationals who have failed to do so time and time again.
Hear, hear.
Member for